All right. This is episode number 3 of the Bobby Bowen Show, a brand new show. And my second episode was a guy I used to travel with back in the 90s, Kent Humphrey. He used to sing with a group I was with called Midsouth. And I know this guy real well. Went to school with him. That's where I first met him, my last couple of years of school, high school.
Good old Falk University.
Good old Falk High. And this is Joe Cook.
Hey, everybody.
Joe, I'm glad you came on with me, and this is going to be entertaining. I could just tell you right off the bat.
Well, good. We need some entertainment.
We need some entertainment during this time of coronavirus stuff. Yeah. Speaking of that, what have you been doing all this time, this last 3 weeks?
A lot of woodshedding, practicing, a lot of watching, old TV stuff that we used to watch, the Three Stooges,
Oh, yeah.
King of the Hill.
Yeah.
Big animation fan. I like animation.
So you're not able to travel like the rest of us.
Shut down.
And
2 months of solid good work, and within one day it all went away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had all of April, end of March, all of April booked, had to cancel all of it. So,
but now I'm waiting like everybody else patiently for stimulus money.
Yeah.
Music Cares. I want to applaud them. If anybody's watching and knows Music Cares, 2 thumbs up. I got a check coming from them. Thank God.
That's awesome, man.
Because boy, the old mailbox, you go to open it up and dust comes out, man. So
exactly.
waiting for the Tennessee unemployment to kick in, which who knows when that'll happen. But
yeah. Well,
waiting patiently and not giving into fear. I'm seeing everybody just panicking and like it's going to be their last day on earth.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of we're going to get through this, man. This is not going to be forever. We're going to get through this.
We are. They're already saying that by the 1st of May, they're supposed to start opening up stuff in Tennessee. So,
yeah,
I sure hope so.
Yeah, me too. I know the rest of the country's ready to get back at it, and I enjoyed downtime like everybody else, but enough's enough. I'm ready to go back at it.
Oh yeah, a week or so, I'm done. I'm ready to get out of here and get back on the road.
Yep.
Speaking of that, I just want to go back to tell everybody where you were born, what year, just kind of start off like that, and then talk about when you were a kid, how old were you when you first, what was your influence back when you were just a kid?
Okay.
That you knew that you wanted to play guitar and be a musician.
Oh, that's easy.
Start back there.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Dallas, Texas, in November 7th, 1962. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying that.
Man, you're getting old.
I now am eligible for AARP, dude. And
I know I get those letters all the time.
I'm eligible for AARP. What happened?
Hey, man, the great thing, one of the great things about being 55 or older is when you go to Denny's, you get to order off the senior discount menu.
I mean, all I need to do to complete the get up is wear some shorts with black socks pulled up to my knees and wearing sandals, and I'm there.
Exactly.
But no. Anyway, I was born in Dallas, Texas, 1962. My dad was a musician. He was a guitar player. So I have fond memories, and it's funny how your mind can pull these things out, little files that are tucked away in your brain. I have memories of sitting on his lap, him playing a Strat through a Fender Twin, just sitting there playing. And I remember, this is getting kind of geeky techo, but I still remember this. On Fender amplifiers, they got this big red pilot light that lets you know that it's on.
Yep.
And I remember staring into that thing, and it was like it was alive because my dad was plugging, all this music was coming out of this big amplifier, and it looked alive to me. And so I was always fascinated with guitar, music in general. And so
how old were you then when you first?
Oh God, let's see. I was probably four
Wow.
or five that I can remember then. And of course, my parents divorced, and we moved back to Texarkana because that's where my mom's family were at. So we moved in, and then a couple of years later, I don't, maybe 67, she married my stepdad. And so I was raised by him and my my biological father. You know, during the holidays, I'd go visit, and so there was always music around. I was always intrigued by music, and I remember getting really serious about it when uh, listening to Beatle records. My aunt had a stack of Beatle records, and I was just learning how to play. You know, sitting there with my little Mel Bay chord book and trying to figure out, okay, this finger goes here, that one.
Oh yeah.
And I remember she came in and put these records on the bed, and she goes, "If you really want to be a successful, good musician, listen to these guys." And you know, I'm thinking, you know, what does she know? She's old. Well, of course, I've put them on the turntable, and that's another word you don't hear anymore, turntable.
No.
And of course, it blew my mind. It opened up all kinds of questions. And, you know, why does it sound like this? Or why does a guitar sound like this? And, you know, so, you know, I never had any formal lessons. When I'd go visit my dad, he would show me things, but he was always so busy playing that he was never around. So
Yeah.
I took what he taught me and what, books that I had and learned as much as I could. And I'll never forget the first time I played. Let me back up. I had a guy live down the street from me who played drums. He had a kit, and so there for a while, me and him would get together in his garage. We would bang out stuff, and I don't even know what tunes at the time. But I remember the first time a guy came over with a bass guitar and plugged in, and when that I remember, so many little moments in your life that you'll never forget. And I'll bring another one up. And I remember thinking, oh, my Lord, we sound like a band. We sound like the Beatles, because all of a sudden now the low end comes in and it just rounded everything out.
You got to have that bass guitar.
You got to have that and drums, or you have nothing.
Oh, yeah. No foundation.
So that really was an epiphany, I guess you could say. It really opened up, well, this is how you make music. So I did that.
Epiphany. I know you didn't learn that in Falk.
I picked it up along the way.
Okay.
But anyway,
no offense to Falk people watching this,
no,
what I'm talking about.
I took just enough school to get out. That.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but of course, it consumed everything about me. I would eat just enough dinner and then run to my room and just stay with my guitar, as I know you did too.
Oh yeah.
And there for a while, my parents were worried. It's like, we never see him; he's always in his room. So I guess they thought I was going to turn into a recluse. So of course I had to get out. And then I discovered football. I was really good in football, and I enjoyed that. And but after it was over, music took over 100%. And there was never a time in my life where I said, I may be a fireman or a policeman or an accountant. It was always, I'm going to be a guitar player. No question about it. I mean, every time we would get new school books and get the new, covers on them, I would immediately, be drawing guitars on them and notes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I come by it honest. I got it. Obviously a gift from the Lord. I know that. I know where it comes from. But it was handed down to my dad and passed on to me. And so, you fast forward years later, I hooked up with you guys.
Yeah, let's. Before we get to that,
yeah,
tell everybody, what was your first guitar?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Wow. The first one my grandparents ordered me from Sears catalog. Wow, dude, we're going back because that's not even thought of now. But I ordered, I picked out an amp and a guitar.
Was it a silver tone?
It was,
or a harmony?
Or Checkmate.
Really?
Yeah, because it had a little crown and with some, I think it was called a Checkmate. Gosh, it was so long ago. But I do remember the amp had tremolo on it, and I thought that was just amazing.
Yeah.
And so I would take, now this was when I was going to school in Redwater. This was before I went to Falk. I would take my guitar and amp to school, and the teachers would have me play for, little assemblies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I started getting attention from the opposite sex.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, okay, the Beatles made this work, and they had a bunch of, ladies following them around. So I could do this too.
Yeah.
And so, like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so the first one was a Sears and Roebuck amp and guitar. And I played that till I started, my parents, especially my dad, started noticing, like, okay, yeah, man, you're let's get you something better.
Yeah.
So, and I'll never forget it. It was in 1976. I was visiting my dad in Dallas, and he took me downtown Dallas, and there was a shop in downtown called McCord Music, and the guy, his name was Fred McCord. I'll never forget it. And he was the guy that sold my dad his first really good electric guitar. So my dad, took me there, bought me a nice brand new white Strat.
Wow.
And I thought, man, that, I basically slept with the thing. Everywhere I went, it went. I literally carried that guitar everywhere. And that's what I was playing when I joined you guys. You remember the white?
I do remember that.
So that's what I had when I joined you guys. And then I'll never forget, we went to Nashville to record Christian Country Hearts. And it was my first time to ever be in Nashville. And I'll never forget it. There's another one of those things that's locked away that I'll never forget. I remember we went to Acorn Studios, Eddie Crook, all the gang were there.
Yeah.
And the guy playing guitar that day happened to be the guy named Mike Sievers. And he had this pink Strat, which I didn't know what kind it was because I thought it was a Fender. I thought everything was Fenders, but it was a company called ESP. Mm-hmm. And it was a pink ESP Strat. And I remember sitting watching him play. And I remember it was a song called, remember that song, You've Been a Friend to Me, Tony sang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember when they counted that off, and I remember I was sitting there and I had the headphones on. It literally blew my mind. Yeah. It really did. I thought that I was a good guitar player. I thought I knew I was doing until that day. And I realized, man, I got so much to learn because it taught me this is how you make records. This is how music is recorded. These guys had their parts down. They were reading those charts, which back then was like hieroglyphics to me. I didn't know what that 1, 4, 5, 6 minor, all that meant.
Yeah.
But I know they were reading it and making music out of it. So I knew I had to jump on board. So anyway, thanks to Midsouth, or at the time Midsouth Boys, that's what really, it was a turning point for me that, yeah, man, this is what I want to do. This is how you make records. So I learned so much from those guys and still do.
Oh, yeah. When we were in high school, you were a Christian. Mm-mm. You were heavy into Kiss,
Van Halen,
AC/DC, 38 Special, all that stuff back then.
Yeah.
And I remember you had a band put together, and we did an assembly there at the school. And I think I was running sound for it. And
were you
guys? Oh, yeah. Yeah,
wow.
You guys got out there and played, and it was great. Y'all were great.
Oh,
yeah. Y'all played
about as good as a couple of 17-year-olds could sound, I guess.
I think y'all played "I Want to Rock and Roll All Night," party every day.
I'm sure we did. Because Kiss did back then.
It was good. I thought y'all were really good. And then so when I left shortly after graduated, and joined Midsouth Boys, I kind of lost contact with you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, lost contact with a lot of my classmates back then.
Yeah, because you hit the road. You were full time.
I did, man. And then about 3 years into it, we had a steel guitar player, Ricky Francis.
Ricky Francis.
And, he was with us about 3 years, I think it was. And he decided to get off the road.
I remember the night.
Yeah, and we were talking amongst each other. We were like, we'd kind of like to have a guitar player instead of a steel player. And my first thought was you, because I'd heard that you got saved.
Yeah, I was playing with a little local Texarkana group called the Earnest Expectations.
I remember them. Yeah.
I thought we were a black group. Y'all are white? We thought y'all were black.
So I knew that, we were more country gospel. And I thought, well, I don't know if he can play this style or not, because he was always a rocker, So I called you and I said, would you be interested in trying out? And of course you were. So I gave you a couple of songs to learn.
I remember that. Yeah.
One of them was, both of them was Mike Sievers playing on it.
Yeah.
Our Boys Will Be Boys project back in '85.
Right. Which I didn't know at the time who played on all of them.
Right. You didn't know him. You'd never seen him, never met him before. But there was one song that we did. What was it called? He Came Out of the Grave.
Out of the Grave. Had a little,
and it had a lead part in it, was distortion. And I thought, well, I know he can play that because that's more his style.
Yeah, and it was perfect.
Then we gave you a song that I co-wrote called "To Go to Heaven." It was more country. I said, well, if he could play this, then I think he has a good shot at it. So I think we were singing down.
It was Sims, Texas.
Sims, Texas. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was Atlanta or Queen City or somewhere around in there.
It was Sims, Texas.
And so you were supposed to meet us there. We got there early and set up. You were supposed to meet us there before anybody else got there, and we were going to try you out. And I'll never forget the day. We're sitting on the bus, and this red Volkswagen comes driving up in the parking lot, and we're all looking and saying, is that him? And this guy gets out of the car and grabs his guitar case and turns around, and I thought it was Bo Cephas. I thought it was Hank Williams Jr. What's he doing here?
Days. The perm and the beard and the rose-colored glasses. I wore glasses back then.
Yeah, you had,
right. I did. I looked like Bo Cephas.
Frizzy hair, beard, glasses. He looked like a cross between Ronnie Henson and Bo Cephas, and we're Al Yankovic.
And you can go back and look at that old cover, and I just bust out laughing. I was hideous, man.
Oh, man.
Members only jacket.
You were just a foul boy, you did. But anyway, I remember all the guys in the bus going, is that the guy you graduated with? Yeah. That's Joe. So, and then we went in the church, and you hooked up, man. You nailed it. So
well, I remember, I think you gave me a project. I think you gave me the cassette of Boys Will Be Boys.
Probably did.
And you told me what songs. And I remember just staying home and just playing those songs over and over until I couldn't even think about it,
Yeah.
So I remember Jason Sellers was there. Remember, he was playing bass.
Yeah, that's right. That's
probably
right.
about 15 years old.
Probably so. And I remember, man, you nailed it, and you definitely got the job.
I was so happy, dude. I was ecstatic.
Moved to Sheridan, Arkansas with us.
You guys were in a bus. The guys that I knew that were driving around buses were already famous.
Yeah.
So for me to pull up and see the bus, I'm like, okay, this is a serious deal, man. This ain't no part-time stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So you moved to Sheridan, Arkansas with us, moved in. I think you moved in with me,
I did. Yeah.
We were living together.
It's me and you and Donnie.
Yeah, that's right. Donnie Lewis.
Their old house.
Yeah. And so we lived there for what? After you joined us, was it 86 when you came with us?
December of 85. And we spent the New Year's playing in Oklahoma. And so that was my first trip out with you guys.
So the end of 85.
Yeah.
So I think we left Sheridan in 89, June of 80. Well, I did. I think you left about a month or so before that.
I left a little bit before you guys. Me and Tony did.
Moved to Hermitage, Tennessee.
Yeah, me and Tony were first to move up.
Where we all lived when we first moved up here in 89. Mm-hmm. So you spent 3.5 years in Sheridan, Arkansas. Yeah. It was good times, but
what I remember about those times, Bobby, is it was one of the first summers that I didn't have to either hoe cotton or flag crop dusters and work from sun up to sundown because, at the time I was living at home, that's what my stepfather was. He was a farmer. So
yeah,
my summers were consumed with farming. But I remember, after joining you guys that summer, us going out and just hanging out, swimming and doing whatever we wanted. I'm thinking, this is heaven, man.
This is the life, man.
This is great.
Even though we weren't hardly making any money. It didn't
matter. It didn't matter. We were having a ball. We were all
single and living together, sharing the rent, utilities, and everything. Yeah. So it wasn't that hard, back then.
No.
None of us had, bills or credit cards and all that kind of stuff. We just
all we needed to do, the only responsibility we had was to show up whenever the time was to leave and go sing and play. Yeah. That was our responsibility.
And there was never a dull moment, was there?
No, man. Great
we just
time.
Had a blast.
Those years, Bobby, to me were what shaped me to where I am now. And, even though there have been times I've driven off the road, it was that and, knowing that, the Lord is in me is what brings you back. And, but if it wouldn't have been for all those years playing gospel music and being with the group and experienced everything we went through, I don't know how it would have turned out later on. Probably not for the best.
Well, who knows if you'd have just stayed in Falk around that area the rest of your life,
you know.
Been a farmer, part-time guitar player, farmer, full-time, you know, you never know. So
you don't. And that's why, man, I'm glad I trusted in him, and look where it's got me, you know. I can't complain that one bit. I can't. I mean, everything has turned out far exceedingly than I ever thought I would get. So.
Do you remember, I know you do, when the night you got saved or the day you got saved, you know, what was going on? What happened?
There was I was going to a little church in called Pisgah Baptist Church there in Falk. A lot of these people that don't know a Falk area, these are little tiny country churches right out in the middle of the pasture. Well, anyway, he was the pastor of that church, and my mom and everybody went there, but I didn't. You know, I wasn't into church then. I was into doing whatever I was doing. Trying to be a rock star, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
So my mom, I think, told him hey, I have a son that, you know, he's a guitar player, and, you know, I really would wish he would use his talents for the Lord. So, and I think at that point, Bobby Rice had a burden for me, had a heart for me. And he would show up at the house just because I was living at home at the time, and he would just show up out of the blue and wanting to talk to me. And, you know, I was too cool for that. I think I blew him off a couple of times. I think I probably said something rude to him, told him to mind his own business, you know. And then one day, man, it's hard to explain. He came over, and it was just that Lord's timing. I guess that's all it was. And, man, you know, my heart was ready. And the more he got to talking, the more everything just came, what I thought was my world came crashing down. And for the first time I saw, you know, I think I was 21 or 22. You know, I saw things with a different clarity and knew that, you know, all of those times, you know, being in church when I was little, because Mom made us go to church when we were little.
Yeah.
You know, it started coming back. So anyway, I remember giving my heart to the Lord right there. And we were in Broad, you know, out in the open field somewhere. I think I was, you know, and there was a cattle pond that was connected to our property, and he led me to the Lord. And I remember immediately going, okay, because I knew all about baptism and all that stuff. And I remember I said, oh, he goes, would you want to profess your faith tonight at church, you know? And I said, yeah. I said, I did. I said, but I want to be like Jesus, man. I want to be baptized in the open. I remember telling him that. Now, how, you know, I just got saved, man. So I'm not really that, you know, that I didn't know anything really.
But you knew the story of when Jesus got baptized by John.
So I said, man, I want to do it the Jesus way. I want to be baptized in that pond. The pond had scum all over it, you know, probably cow mess floating in it.
Yeah.
But he agreed to it. So that night, everybody come from the church over to our place. We pushed back the waters, and I was baptized right there in a cattle pond.
That's pretty awesome, man. You never told me that.
I thought I did.
No, I don't think you ever did.
I was baptized in an old scummy cattle pond, man. And when I came up, it was like the whole world was different. It was for me. It was really a life-changing moment for me. You know, most people, you know, they get saved at an early age, and everything's right with the world. For me, I was on both sides. So I knew, you know, what I was coming from and where I was going to.
Yeah.
And that's never left me, and it never will.
And I remember when I saw you after we had graduated several years afterwards, and you had gotten saved, I could tell, man, there was a big change. I mean, you were radical. You were on fire for the Lord, man.
Yeah, man. Oh boy, I was too radical, to be honest with you.
No.
I made a lot of people mad when I first got saved. I was a zealot.
Because I mean, we kind of laughed and made fun of you a little bit, but looking back, I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that, because I wish I could be more, brave like you were back then. You would just talk to anybody about the Lord. We'd stop at a convenience store. Yeah. You'd be paying for your Coke or candy bar or whatever, and you'd ask the person behind the counter, "Hey, do you know the Lord?" You know, just stuff like that. We kind of walk away. Oh, Joe, come on, man, leave these people alone. But that's the way we all ought to be, you know.
Yeah, I was, you know, it was a fire that was stirred up. And, you know, there were times I probably took it a little too far and probably hurt some feelings, and, you know, but now I'm learning you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. Yeah. And it's not to say that I'm sugarcoating the word.
Right.
There's just a way to go about it, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
But
and
you're
not be so
definitely
judgmental.
radical, man. You're on fire. I could tell that you love the Lord, and you've been changed, and you were
Oh,
glad that He changed you.
and I remember it would come out in the way I played the guitar, because you remember we had some people coming up. He looks like, he's two dogs humping up there on stage. He plays his, maybe that's some guy said it looked like
Well,
a
I mean,
dog.
you were used to moving around on stage, with your rock and roll
Yeah,
and
dude, I
stuff.
was used to watching, Eddie Van Halen doing, scissor kicks and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So
And I'm
when you
like,
came with us, you tried to do a little bit
yeah,
of that, and so the people were like, "What in the world is
they
this?"
weren't
Because
ready for
this is
that.
Southern country gospel music. We don't do that kind of stuff.
They were ready. They were used to, suits and ties and, quartet music, and we were
Oh yeah,
anything but that.
no,
You add me to the picture, this, guy with frizzy hair and glasses jumping around.
with
I'm
the
sure,
purple
the
suit
purple,
on
I'm sure it'd be
and
shocking.
white tennis shoes.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget Robbie when I was coming in. We were coming into service, and it was right before we went on. And I came in, and I think I had a purple jacket, purple pants, white shoes, and a purple striped shirt. And I came in, and Robbie took one look at me and went, "Mm-mm." And I remember I went back out and changed it to something, I guess, a
Oh
little
yeah,
more.
yeah.
Right. But that's the only way I knew how to dress back then.
I'm trying to think of some funny moments. I mean, there was tons of them.
Yeah.
Way too many to talk about in this interview. But can you think of one of the funniest things? It don't have to be with Mid-South, or I mean, one of the funniest moments of your musical career. Something happened on the road or wherever.
Yeah, God, there were so many, like you say. The one that that stands out is when Donnie introduced, or I found out what hanging was through Donnie. And I remember him coming up to me, and I said something. I
Now,
forgot what it was.
this isn't funny. This is cruel. What
Yeah.
what
Oh boy.
Tommy did to you.
Oh man, you guys had because I was green, dude. I'd never been anywhere.
And
So,
he learned this from the Hensons. They were
okay,
good
right.
at hanging people.
Yeah, and he was saying something about. I said something. I forgot what it was, and he came up and looked at me real serious and said, "That's not funny, man. My sister is crippled." I think I said something about crippled or something like that. And man, I thought I hurt the guy's feelings. I felt awful. Man, I went and grabbed him, hugged him. Dude, I'm so sorry. I mean, I didn't know you had a sister that was crippled. And he busted out laughing. I'm thinking, what is wrong with you, man? And then, of course, he would be the ones where you would go to open the car door and shut it, and he would immediately grab his hand like he was locked in.
Yeah.
And just scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, I'll be talking to Donnie pretty soon doing one of these.
Good.
So we'll get some of those stories from him. But I remember one time we were at McDonald's, and he grabbed one of those ketchup packages, and he kind of tore the end of it open a little bit, and we were walking out the door, and the door, he always, when the door would swing back, he'd put his hand up there in front of his face like it hit him in the nose.
Hit him in the nose, yeah.
And he had that packet in his hand. He squeezed it, and it got on his hand, on his nose. And I mean, they came out with paperwork for insurance, so he wouldn't sue McDonald's. And he did stuff like that all the time. But we'll talk about Donnie at another time. But anyway, he was always.
Yeah, that was one of the funny ones, but there were so many. I mean, that's the one that sticks. I remember, I do remember my first trip out with you guys in Oklahoma, and I was kicking off to go to heaven, and I just completely botched it. I mean, just botched it. And I remember that just tore me up, because here I am, my first trip out, and these guys are going to let me go because I stink.
Nah.
But luckily you guys had compassion on me. But I just remember feeling like, this was it. I blew it.
I've made mistakes more times than one. That's for sure. We've all done that. All been there. But talk about. You was with Mid-South. How long was it, man? Was it
from 80?
Was it 92, 93 when you left?
I think it was 93.
Or was it 94? I think it was 94.
Well, it may have been, Bobby.
Because we were getting ready to record with Warner.
Okay.
Warner Brothers.
My last project was the one
Lessons of Life.
Yeah, when we were all walking out in the desert looking.
That's it. Yeah.
That was my last project. Yeah.
So what? I mean, what happened? Why did you decide to move on from us? I mean,
I remember at that time, we'd just, we'd all just kind of freshly moved to Nashville. Everybody had finally moved there. And and that's when country music was just exploding in Nashville. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was getting signed. Everybody, there was more work than you can shake a stick at. I mean, because you had Opryland, which had all these places to play, the Nashville Network, which had, you know, a lot of activities going on. And I was just seeing all these friends that I had made playing these, getting on these, you know, number one, getting on really nice buses with a bus driver, you know.
Oh, yeah. We were all sharing.
We were all having to drive back then,
Oh,
and I hated it with a passion.
I did too.
And so that was appealing. And the fact that they were making bank, they were making real good money.
Yeah.
And we were all owners of the group. And, you know, as being all owners, when the engine went out, you remember that one year engine went out, we didn't get paid for a whole month.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was that. And plus, you know, I was young. I was still in my 20s, and man, I had something to prove. You know, I wanted to be up. I wanted to play the Opry. I wanted to, you know, ride on the tour bus where I didn't have to drive. And I certainly wanted to make, you know, better money than what we were making. And because I was newly married then at the time. You know? And so I had a wife to support and didn't know how I was going to do it with what we were making. And it certainly wasn't anything of, you know, with you guys or the band or the music. It was none of that. It was just a desire to take it to another level. And plus I remember Jason Sellers. He was with he played with Vince Gill for a little bit, and then he played with Billy Joe Royal.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, watching him on Nashville Now, and, you know, when they would play, and I'm thinking, man, if that little guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one of the reasons. And the Billy Joe Royal gig actually opened up for me. And Jason, you know, with a good recommendation. And that was my first country artist gig after leaving you guys, was Billy Joe Royal. And I was with him for about 2.5 years before I got the call to go play with Terry Clark. And then, gosh, I was there for almost 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You played with a bunch of big artists, you know, just over the years. Name a few.
Well, let's see. Billy Joe, Terry, Joe Diffie, Alan Jackson, Chris Cagle, Tanya Tucker. Oh, gosh.
You've been out with, like, you know, weekend gigs with new artists and things, up and coming artists a lot.
When, you know, back then in Nashville, you know, like I say, I was with Terry she was my main employer, but on down times I would go out and sub for different guys playing with different groups. And, you know, I played with some different artists then, you know, the Ken Lees, Clay Davidson, I remember went out and did some work with him. So I have a list of people that I played for, and then the list of artists that I worked for exclusively.
Yeah.
And that took me all the way
you
up.
Know, a lot of people are probably asking themselves, why would you forsake gospel music and go play secular music? Well, why did the money lead you to that? Why would you do that? Well, I asked Kent, you know, yesterday when I was doing his interview, what his first paycheck was when he joined the Dixie Melody Boys, and it was $102.50. My
first got started, dude, I was making $150 a week.
Yeah. My first pay was $20 a date. And if we did one date that weekend, I got $20. If we did two, that's $43.60. You know, if we did three or more, I was excited because, you know, but yeah, I mean, people thought,
like I said, it had nothing to do, because I was still a believer, always have been.
Oh yeah, sure.
So it had nothing to do with forsaking God, or was mad at God, or, you know, mad at you guys, didn't like the music. No, man, I just wanted to, you know, I was with you guys for what, 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to think, okay, I'm seeing all of this work in this town, and it's really good work and great accommodations. I want to try it, see if I can do it, prove to myself that I can hang with these guys that are out here playing country music.
And you certainly did.
Well, and the Lord
did, man.
You know, and that's another thing. Even though I was not playing gospel music anymore, I never left gospel music. It always was a part of me, no matter where I went. You know, I'd always talk about us, the Hensons, Hemp Hills, what great bands everybody had. But it was just at a different level and a different genre of music. And, you know, there were some things that were, you know, I remember, I'll never forget this, because my last date with you guys, you know, we parked it, back then it was called Detroit Diesel. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where we used to park our buses. And I remember taking my stuff off of our bus and putting it on Billy Joe's bus, because we parked he parks at the same place.
Yeah.
And then going out with him that night, and then the next, getting to the destination, and I'll never forget it, pulling up at this seedy honky tonk. And I do remember going, boy, what did I get myself into? Because it was completely different from playing in the First Baptist Church and, any town USA, to walking into the most roughest honky tonk you would ever want to.
It was almost like you went back in time before you got saved.
It really was,
Yeah.
And then, of course, nobody there to help you hold accountability. You start sliding, and of course, I did. I slid away. I'm not gonna lie. Did some things I shouldn't have done that, thank God, I've been forgiven over.
Oh, sure.
It was hard lessons, but it did teach me this. That's where a lot of the fields that are ripe for harvest, it's in those areas. It's not in the churches, man. It's not on singing on gospel cruise ships. It's out there in the ditches and the trenches.
That's right. That's where Jesus,
right in the middle of it.
That's where Jesus always went. He didn't hang around with at the synagogue.
Yeah. I mean, and to a point, it got to where it's like we were, for me, it's like we're just preaching to the choir. I'm playing in front of Christians 24/7. I want to see what it's like on the other side. Yeah. Well, if you're not strong enough to go on the other side, it will eat your lunch. Yeah. And it did me for a while, but as with age comes wisdom, and I've certainly outgrown a lot of that stuff and left it behind. And now it's all about the music and, my walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
Still there.
So what's going on with you now? I mean, what are you into now?
A lot of it is, I'm playing with this guy named Ray Scott, and country artist, good old Methodist boy, Methodist. But we just go around, and a lot of it has been just acoustic stuff. Me and him going on playing places with acoustic guitars and two vocals, and sometimes we'll if the budget allows, we'll do the band thing, the full band thing. But it's funny, here I was, talking about the bus situation and how I've always wanted to be on buses and stuff. And I did all of that, was on the private jets and all of that. And now I'm back to either a van in a trailer or a van.
Hey, man, I'm right there with you. I'm doing the same thing.
The buses are long gone. But you know what? Even in country music today, you see a lot of guys pulling trailers and vans. It's just the demographics have changed.
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw my wife used to work for Billy Dean. He was pretty hot back in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him on Facebook a couple of days ago, and he was just standing out on somebody's deck with a little awning over him, and he had two Bose speakers sticking up, him and his guitar.
Yep.
And he's just standing out there singing to about 5 or 6 people. And I saw him here a while back driving his own bus. It's like,
it's all changed. It really
has. It has.
It's,
it doesn't last forever, that's for sure.
No, and that was one thing that I realized, as the longer I stayed into it, working for these people, I'm like, I made really good money. They took good care of me, but this is something that's not going to be, longevity, because you get older like I am now. And these artists that are coming up today, they're not going to hire an old dude like me.
They want the young guys.
They want the young guys, just like I was when I first moved to town. Those guys wanted me. They didn't want some guy that had been there, 30 years.
Yeah.
And so now I've come full circle, but I've made a more different quality of people, a more quality of artists to play with. I don't, I'm very picky. I can afford to be picky now who I go out with. And I won't go out with somebody that's just an absolute degenerate. Nah, I don't need it that bad.
No.
And plus, along the years, about 10 years ago, I got certified to drive limousines. So do you remember Melissa Boyer? She was Michelle's friend, still is Michelle's friend.
Okay.
They live together. Well, anyway, she owns a limo company, and I've been working for her for the last 5 or 6 years.
Wow. I can't imagine you driving limos.
Well, when you say limo, it's all changed now. Everybody, when they think of limo, they think of the stretches.
Oh, okay.
Entertainers don't really ride in stretches anymore. They're either town cars or SUVs. So that's what I drive. I don't drive the stretches.
Okay. Well,
that's mainly now people use stretches for proms or funerals.
Do you have to wear the black suit and the black hat and all that? You don't have to.
No, man. Just just look nice. And plus, I put that little hat on. I look ridiculous. I'll drive your cars, but I ain't wearing no hat.
Speaking of driving, there's one more funny story, and you can tell it because
I think I know.
We used to, like you said, we used to share the bus driving. We'd take like 3-hour shifts, depending on how far we were going. And we we had just signed with Word Records, and John Mays was our A&R, our producer,
Yeah.
and he went with us on a trip. And we went to Ohio, somewhere, maybe Cincinnati or somewhere, Dayton or somewhere up in there. And we were driving back to Nashville, and it was your turn to drive. I think we just got outside of Cincinnati, and it was your turn to drive. And it was about, 1 or 2, 3 in the morning, something like that.
Early.
So
Everybody
you kind of take it from there and tell them what happened.
Well, it was Derek going through wherever that Gene Snyder.
It was Louisville.
Louisville, okay. And I remember, because, back then there was no GPSs, it was just all Rand McNally maps. And, and I was never good at reading a map. So anyway, I was going, and I remember thinking, I wonder if this is the turn. And still, instead of gearing down and approaching it, I didn't want to miss the turn because I didn't know where it would lead me if I kept. So I just barreled off on that exit. And I was probably doing, now this is one of those cloverleaf type exits,
it's not 25 mile an hour.
Yeah. This thing curved around. And I remember taking it, and I remember standing up in the seat, turning the wheel with everything I had.
Well, I didn't have power steering back then either. So,
and if I wouldn't have, we would have gone straight off. So I remember just cranking it.
And we're all asleep. You're the only one awake.
You guys were asleep, but not for long, because the tires were squealing, the bus was bouncing. And I remember as soon as I finally got it off the exit, I pulled over. Oh, man, I was just dripping in sweat and thanking God that we didn't all die. And I look back, and our A&R guy, John Mays, was in the floor with covers and pillows all over him. And I remember he peered out from under the covers, and I said, John, you okay, man? And all he could do was go with his eyes still wide as salt. Yeah, man, I'm okay. I think I'm okay. And about that time, you guys come piling out. There's food and clothes everywhere. And I remember going out to look, and I had turned the curve so hard that the generator had slid out and opened the bin door up. We had to push the generator back in. So I remember that one. That was a close shave, man.
Oh yeah.
And and I remember telling myself then, if I could ever get with the group that has a driver, I'll never drive again.
Yeah, we were thankful of that you never drove.
I mean, our first night with John Mays, wanting to make a great impression on him, and I throw him in the floor and
I'm surprised you didn't just tear up our contract right then and there. I ain't dealing with these guys.
I remember after the dust settled, I remember he was saying, yeah. He goes, all I remember is looking at the driver and looking back, and it was Satan staring back at me.
like planes, trains, and automobiles.
He thought he saw his life flash before his eyes, and he looked, and there was Satan in the driver's seat, grinning, laughing at you. But we all made it through it, man. And
yeah, we did. I'll never forget that, man. That was a scary time. I just
remember standing up, physically turning that wheel as fast as I could turn it.
I think we all got on our knees and prayed through right then and there, because we could have been sent into eternity right there. So
there were so many times. I remember us on the road that I know God had a hand in sparing.
Oh, there were so many times, even before you came, our bus, the brakes were awful. They were always bad. I don't know if we just burned them up or what we did, but there were times when I'd be driving through a town and, traffic lights, red lights, and it would start turning red, and I could not stop. And I just had to run it, and I'm honking the horn, hoping nobody comes through, because if they did, I was going to hit them. And God just, his hand was on us all the time.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah, there's not a day goes by that I thank him for, Lord, remember back in 86 when you spared our life. Thank you for that, man.
Yeah, definitely. He did. He did.
But they were good times, man. And like
he has a purpose for us, that's for sure.
Yeah, he didn't want to see us check out just yet. So.
And we're not done till we're done, man.
Because there was so many times we could have been in the paper. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Joe, I appreciate you doing this, man.
Oh, man.
And I know there's a lot of guitar players out there that always look up to you. There's always guys on my Facebook page talking about you, wonder what you're doing and how you influence them they're playing today because of you.
I get that on my Facebook page. I get some guys that, one story that sticks out in particular, there was this guy, it's been several years ago, he reached out to me. He goes, you probably don't remember this, but you were playing at this church and you had dropped your guitar pick, and I picked it up and handed it back to you. and you gave it back to me and said, hey man, learn to play guitar and use this, and it'll make you happy. I told him something like that.
Yeah.
And he kept the pick, and he had it all these years later. And he said, because of you, now I'm a professional guitar player and I make my living playing music. And I said, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But
I hope you can make a living at it.
but when I hear stories like that, and like you say, people that come up and say what an influence that our music and our group had on them in a positive way, it just, I mean, that's the ultimate compliment. It really is, because at the time, as you well know, going through it, it felt like we were nothing but just, ticking people off, because we were different and we were radical for that time.
Yeah, we were.
And so, I really at the time didn't really think that we were making a difference. But now here years later, gosh, I mean, the positive comments have been just overwhelming. And then that time we did the Cornerstone thing back in 2013.
Yeah.
I will never forget when we opened up with Tabernacle and the lights went up and that church was filled full of people, and it blew me away. I mean, it really did. It's like, wow, man.
And people drove for 500 or 600, 700 miles.
Yeah, came from all over to see that. And the response was just tremendous. And that was a highlight of my night. And I got this big old poster framed of that night with the set list and all the little baseball. Remember the baseball cards we got back in Port Tech Convention one? You're singing these baseball cards.
Yep.
I got all of those with all of us on them, and so those are good times. And there's not a day go by, and this is no kidding, there's not a day go by that I don't think of us being on stage somewhere playing, our music, and seeing people respond to it in a positive way and responding to Jesus and the message. So we had a hand in that, and that's cool.
It is cool.
To me, out of everything I've done, and I've done some really good stuff in my career, I've been so blessed and fortunate. That will always stick out to me, is being in Midsouth, because that's my roots, that's my foundation.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on and sharing with us.
Pleasure.
Probably made you think a little more.
Gosh, I hadn't thought of some of this stuff in a long time.
But we could sit here for hours talking about
funny
stories and things, because we could write a book.
We really could. And it's
maybe someday I will.
It's funny when we all get together. Have you noticed, the times that, it's few far in between now. And I understand we all got different commitments, but the times we do get together as a band to go somewhere and play, the stories are endless. We're constantly just, remember this time,
Right.
And it's wonderful. And that tells me that, man, we've lived life to its fullest.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And all because of the grace of God.
That's true, man. Thanks, Joe, and I appreciate it very much.
And I just want to say I am proud of you for what you've done. You and your family, those girls have grown up to be singers and musicians, your boys, and it's like, yeah, man, it doesn't fall far from the musical tree,
Yeah, it's
Kent's boys,
Yeah, I'm a blessed man, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, man. And Robbie's son, Tyler, good Lord, that guy, I mean, what a great drummer.
Yeah,
mean, he really can, man. He's a serious little drummer.
They really are. They're really good, really talented. We hope they just carry it on,
Yeah. Carry it on.
Leave the legacy behind,
We've been blessed, brother, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me to do this. And it did. We could sit here for hours and just keep going, but I can't wait to see the other guys' interviews.
I can't wait to do another reunion concert, man. I hope it comes up real soon.
Me too.
One thing we'll go with, maybe there's somebody out there, a struggling musician that would love to go full time, love to play with somebody. What kind of advice do you have for those guys?
If you're serious about it and really serious, and your heart will let you know if you are, I'd say learn everything you can about your instrument. Learn music. I mean, even go to a different genre and learn something. Get out of your box. I mean, that was one thing that, there for a while I was playing nothing but gospel music, and so after a while I thought, man, I need just something a little else. So I would go listen to different players, and I think that expands your knowledge. And but make your wise choice. Make a good choice about it. Guys like Eli Fortner and Karen Peck's son, I can't think of his name at the moment. All great guitar players, man.
Yeah.
And these kids grew up in gospel music, Southern gospel music. and look at him now, Eli Fortner, man, that guy can play just as good as, you know, the rest of the rock world out there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, if you're serious about it, expand your mind, learn all you can, and get out and play with different people. That's the only way you're going to become better, is to play with different human beings. You know, your bedroom can only take you so far. You know, your YouTube lessons can only get you so far. At some point, you got to cut that loose and go out and make music. And if you're serious about it, you'll get good. And if you're not serious about it, no shame in it, man. It's a great relaxation. I know people that love to, after their 9 to 5, come home and plug in their tellies and their little pedals and just have a ball with it. And I applaud that. You don't have to be a serious professional to enjoy playing an instrument, you know.
And there's so many musicians. You can go, well, probably not today, but any other time you could go downtown Nashville, and they're out on the street corner.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Good players.
Oh yeah.
But they never get discovered. They never make it.
No, because you know it's you know, and that's another thing. Beware of the traps. You know, it's easy to get down in places like that and just stay, and then before you know it, you know, 10 years have went by and you're still at the same place playing the same songs, and that's really counterproductive. So, you know, I say if anybody who's really serious about it, you know, check your heart and see if this is what you really want to do, because it ain't an easy life, man.
No,
you know,
it's not.
Really not. The highs are incredible, and the lows are the lowest you can get.
Ooh,
You'll feel them all.
Yes,
you know, you'll feel the highs, and you'll cry over the lows. Trust me.
Yeah,
and
you will.
It's not an easy business, but if God put that in your heart's desire, then go for it and do it right.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's good advice, man.
Thank you, buddy. It's so fun to do this, and thanks
man.
for the guitar thing. I see there.
Oh yeah. I put that telly behind me in honor of you, man, because I know you love tellies.
Absolutely, yeah. They're just a great weapon of choice.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you, buddy.
I hope we get together real soon, not just to go out to eat some Chinese food or whatever, or to get together and play again.
Yeah. We need to do it, and because we all benefit from it when we do it. I notice when we all get together, man, there's nothing but smiles on everybody's faces, and you know, that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all. Well, I'm gonna let you go, man.
All right, buddy.
Hope you get back on the road real soon.
Absolutely. Much love to you and your talented family, and be safe and keep virus free. And eventually this is going to go away and we'll be back.
It will.
Normal.
It will. Thanks, man.
You bet, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See ya.